Who says strategy games are dead? It's looking good for the PC in 2014, with the release of quite a few interesting strategy games on the horizon. It's not all esports, MOBAs and free-to-play, with the return of Warhammer's classical fantasy franchise, a Warlock sequel, and a return to World War II. When looking over what we know about this year's releases on the strategy market, I've come across a few gems that we're genuinely looking forward to. Some we've got experiences with, and others have just been announced. So if you're into working out your brain and putting your index finger on hiatus, then you might enjoy our top 5 most anticipated strategy games. It's not all about APM. I'm already cheating a little because number 5 slot will technically have just been released by the time this video goes up, but sitting here from a couple of days away, I'm anticipating the launch of Warlock 2, the Civilization style game that swapped Earth for an ethereal realm split apart by portals. Developed by 1C Inoco and published by Paradox Interactive, Warlock 2 is everything you would expect from the high fantasy kings. Quests, conquest, strategy and a hex-based world that'll make the most chilled of honeybees green with envy. Granted, it's competing with the also brilliant Age of Wonders 3, but Warlock 2 quenches that thirst for a more down-to-earth hexed conquest game without departing on the battle system. With questing, 14 playable races, and a whole host of spells and abilities, Warlock 2 the Exiled, from what I've played, is a deliberate and honest iteration on Masters of the Arcane. Details on Mordheim City of the Damned are scant, but Games Workshop have yet again teamed up with French publisher Focus Home Interactive to bring us another game from the Warhammer mythos. Swapping out the blasters for the bows, Mordheim is a turn-based strategy game based on the classical fantasy world of Warhammer, and not the more modern 40k. Featuring the factions Sisters of Sigmar, Possessed, Skaven and the mercenaries from the Empire, Mordheim will feature roguelike combat that extends not only to the life of your units, but also their limbs, if we're to take the press release literally, as it states that some of your units might lose a limb. Insert Monty Python and the Holy Grail reference here. I got to sit down with developer Tindalos Interactive way back at their press event where they presented me with Ethereum, a science fiction based RTS ostensibly targeting the esports market. Set on multiple planets, each with their own climate and weather variables, Ethereum seeks to minimise micromanagement by clumping units together rather than producing individual units and sending them each on their own respective ways. Whilst I'm someone who enjoys seriously in-depth strategy with thousands of different units and rules that can be bended and manipulated, Ethereum sold me on how tight and intuitive everything seemed, as though Steve Jobs was pulling the strings from his grave. These are great RTS games to play with and against friends, and without forcing a story down your throat, it sets the context as you fight as or against gigantic capitalistic corporations or radical religious zealots. This is a fight for a power source, and that's a fight we can all get behind. I've been following Wargame Red Dragons since we broke the news of the title way back from Gamescom 2013. Bringing to the table 1,500 units, Wargame is a strategy fan's wet dream, with an armoury lining up the prettiest military units from between 1975 to 1991. Wargame lays down the romance of war thick enough for Robert Capa to happily wade through. Intimidating to the masses, CEO of Eugen Systems Electris Ledresse ensured me that they wanted to make a game that a specific group of people would absolutely love, and not a game that everyone in the world would like. That's a developmental practice I can get behind, because since the series' roots with European escalation, Wargame has one of the strongest and most enjoyable communities in any strategy game out there at the moment. Taking the war to Asia, this installment offers amphibious vehicles and sea units, as well as the new armies North Korea, South Korea and China, among others. Wargame expands beautifully with every installment, and I can't wait to binge on this one. Talk about a contentious number 1 spot. There are either too many Men of War games or not enough, depending on your perspective, and I'm well aware that Vietnam was a huge departure for the series and that Condemned Heroes was a piece of junk, but Digital Mindsoft weren't behind those games, and those are the guys who brought us the original Assault Squad. Incidentally, Company of Heroes 2 borrowed and rebranded some of the features found in Assault Squad, such as True Sight and the ability to plunge units under the frozen waters, but it never got credit for those little innovations that made the game what it is. There has never been a World War II RTS as visceral and as strategic as the Assault Squad series, a game about micromanagement and knowledge of military units. With a wide range of infantry and vehicles across multiple campaigns featuring the British, Germans, Japanese and Americans, Men of War Assault Squad 2 offers all the content of the prior game, with extended content, UI optimizations and engine tweaks, making it the ultimate Men of War multiplayer package. With realistic skirmishes taking anything from 40 minutes to 2.5 hours, Assault Squad and its second installment portray the most realistic depiction of war I've ever seen in a game. It's utter chaos, but from your armchair you somehow always feel in control, and that's something awesome. So there's our top 5 most anticipated strategy games of 2014, and while you won't agree with all of them, I hope some of you will learn about a new game you didn't previously know of, or if you did know about them, I hope you learned something new. Strategy games aren't going anywhere, so I'll see you on the battlefield.